Welcome here to this space. If it's your first time, I welcome you here. If you've been here before, you know we always love to start by dropping into a little bit of stillness. If it's safe for you to just be a little more still, maybe I invite you to close your eyes. If you're not driving, you can do this and just allow yourself to drop in and be more present. If you want to put your hand on your heart, take a few deep breaths here, just inviting in more stillness, more presence with your breath. It's free. It's always here with you. You can't breathe in the past or the future, only now. So be here now with your breath and just allow your breath to inform what you're receiving in as you inhale with intention. What is it that you want to be a receiver of? This is the topic of discussion today. What would you like to receive? If you could receive anything and you knew that the universe is abundant, what is it that you would want to receive, secretly or not so secretly? And as you release and exhale, what are you willing to release? Releasing the idea or the illusions of control, controlling of outcomes or people in order to feel safer. This last full moon that we just had in Taurus is perfectly aligned with what is ready to be released in order to receive. To be a receiver is very interesting. There's so many layers to it, and that's what I want to speak to today. So if you want to stay in that frame of mind where you're more still and aware of your breath as it's coming and going, please do so as you listen. If you're here now live or if you're watching this later, I invite you to just be with your breath, with yourself as we talk about these ideas, receiving. So my story, my lived experience was to be around a lot of very what's the word, successful women women who seem to have it all together, very capable, very able. And as I observe looking back at those women, they were really stellar at managing life and big families, and it's very beautiful. And I also noticed, as I'm thinking back about myself and where I learned these kind of themes, were that I didn't really see them being able to receive. Receiving is a very feminine energy, but it's not passive. It's actually an active openness to life, not feeling, not acting out of a wounded energy of masculine or feminine, because whether we're male or female, it doesn't matter. We both carry the masculine and feminine energies within. And I believe part of why we're here to experience life is to learn how to balance those energies so we're not acting out in ways that are more wounded. What I saw modeled, I think what we've been living in is wounded masculine and feminine energy. What that looks like for the masculine, well, our culture glorifies, let's be honest, our culture, the culture I was raised in, the overculture of life, it glorifies the doing and the fixing and the controlling of people, things, experiences, and that is the wounded masculine acting out, right? That's on display. We've seen that. We've lived in that. And the wounded feminine responds more by collapsing, withdrawing, feeling shame, like taking in and internalizing if something went wrong, it must be my fault. Do you see how that is? That's like a wounded feminine, where instead of projecting out drama and trauma onto others, which is a masculine energy, it's more hiding and making something mean something about you. Well, if that happened, then it's true that I don't matter, or that I shouldn't have done that, or whatever. That's a wounded feminine. So, true feminine energy is receptive but powerful. It's magnetic because it's present. It's like when we talk about being still and with our breath, that's a very feminine thing. It's being still. It's yin energy is feminine energy, and it's the source of all creation. And it's dark. It's related to dark matter and stillness and power. It's the energy of creation, creating babies, but also creating whatever it is that we desire, knowing that we can through presence and magnetism. True feminine energy can receive what it desires through the power of knowing how to send out the signal of being receptive to receive. We can't receive when we are theoretically or metaphorically, actually, when we have our fists closed and we haven't released what is no longer ours. How can we ever receive? And I'm going to share a few stories around that. And then from true yin energy, that feminine being more conscious and not wounded, arrives true masculine. So the true masculine energy holds, it protects, and it takes aligned action according to the yin energy being not wounded, but conscious, if that makes sense. So the energy of receiving, yes, it means surrendering our mental contraction, like our idea of what we think it should be, and allowing what is. And that can be so hard for some people. We've talked a lot about this. If you're familiar with some of the things that I teach, that our thoughts create our emotions. The looping of our thoughts is what creates our reality. Our thoughts literally have a frequency and a vibration that they are vibrating at. And so if we're thinking thoughts that are, and we talked about this at our last meeting, the difference between upstream thoughts and downstream thoughts. Upstream thoughts are thoughts that are counterintuitive to receiving, because we are trying to over effort in our thoughts what it should be, what my life should look like this or whatever. But the very energy of thinking and believing that creates a loop that will repel and repulse energetically the very thing you're seeking or that you think you want. So everything that you want to receive is literally downstream energetically. To align with it, you must align with the frequency of ease and simplicity and peace, which is receiving. So I want to speak to this. Oh, it's actually, this is something that I think is important to share. It's where our nervous system actually meets our spirituality, when we're able to channel this energy, this receptive energy, through safety, self-trust, and breath, being still, being present. Okay, I want to talk about a story that I heard some years ago when I started a mystery school. That it found me. I don't know how I found it. It found me. I love to think of it that way, that somehow synchronistically, this school found me. And in the first year of this 4 or 5 year school that I just finished up this last year, they told the story of Inanna. And I've probably mentioned it here, but it speaks so beautifully to the receptive energy that we're speaking to today. And Inanna is a Sumerian goddess. So it's a myth, but it's beautiful if you think about the correlation between Persephone in Greek mythology, or even Jesus or Buddha, the stories of their lives. If you think about it, when I tell you this story, I'd like you to think about, if you're familiar with these other myths or stories or biblical or whatever they are, you see a theme, a general like thread that goes through all of them that links them. And it's very, very interesting. I would like to think of it as Inanna's journey is everyone's journey. It's very personal and it's archetypal, which means it's collective. It runs through all of our lives. So as I tell this story, I invite you to think about in your own life your descent journeys. And we never have just one descent journey. So as I speak this to you, I'm curious how it will land with what's going on in your life now, or even your past stories, or even coming in your future. And I really do believe the more we're able to consciously be aware of archetypal stories, when things start to happen in our lives, like descent journeys, like Inanna's, we're better equipped to not make it so personal and realize, wow, this is something that we're all experiencing as humans in this lived experience as humans. And it makes it a little bit easier. It's a game changer to have this knowledge. So Inanna, she was seen as the queen of heaven and earth. And she hears the call of her shadowed sister, Ereshkigal, who is the queen of the underworld. Okay. I would like to think of this as anytime we have chaos and hard things happening in our lives, this is the call of the underworld. It's our shadow aspects that live within us, the parts of us that we've othered and dismissed and stayed distracted in our lives so we don't turn towards the parts of ourselves that want to be held and seen and brought out of the shadows into more light so we can not have it be a shadowy part of us anymore and keeping us in an energy that keeps us far from ourselves, disconnected and disconnected from God and all that is. When we're disconnected from ourselves, how could we ever think we could have a relationship with deity that is deep and authentic if it hasn't happened here first? So she descends and she's not doing it to conquer, to go down and conquer her sister. She's actually going so she can know. Gnosis, Gnosis, is the Latin word for knowing, like a deeper knowing, like an understanding, having a different perception. So at each gate in her descent to the underworld, she meets a gatekeeper, and there's an initiation that takes place at each gate. Each threshold is asking something of her. And what's really happening here is that she is being stripped of all of the identities and the possessions and the stories, the narratives that she thought that she was, that society told her she should be, the things she came to believe about herself that really weren't true. And it wasn't punishment, this journey, descent journey, but it was more of a purification and stripping down until nothing remains but the essence of her truest self. And this is when I heard this, I realized this had happened in my life in a very real way, but I didn't know how to put words to it. So it was so comforting to hear this story. So I'm going to speak it to you. So the first gate that she gets to, and this is all about receiving. This really is tied to a, like maybe how you thought receiving should look. Like, how do you receive compliments? How do you receive love? How do you receive service from and help from other people? If you've only ever been the one who is the giver of those things, giving service to others, putting yourself at the back of the line, maybe, um, giving, like how you serve your family. If you have a large family, are you ever taking time to receive help from others, help from your family, or even tending to your own self and not putting yourself at the back of the line? Are you a giver and a receiver from yourself? That's it. That's something to sit with and ponder as well. So back to Inanna. And Ananda is, I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's another whole thing, but Ananda is a type of energetic guru in ancient traditions. So it's interesting that Inanna and Ananda are so similar too. But okay, gate 1. And at the beginning, I always thought because it was a descent journey that she would be coming down through her chakras. And the opposite is true. Gate 1 starts at the root chakra. And yet, what she's asked to give up is her crown. So it's the root chakra, it's earth, it's her identity, it's the identity as being sovereign unto ourselves. So our root chakra is I am. I'm here to take up space. I am a participator. But when she reaches the gate in her descent journey, she is asked to give up her crown, which is her idea of authority and her role as a queen. But she sits with it and she's like, can I give this up? I don't want to give that up. But she realizes in order to truly descend, she must give up and surrender the illusion of control and superiority. And what she learns through this is that true power isn't held through dominance. It's actually anchored in presence. And as I don't want to get into what her ascent journey really is, but it's the opposite of dominance and superiority. It's she comes back. So in the story, as she descends through the gates, coming up, really, because if we're not rooted and grounded in the belief that we are meant to be here and take up space, when you root into that, now you have an inner authority that can connect to deity in a way that is different than giving all your power away to a deity, thinking, not having a relationship with yourself and being rooted, believing that you have something to do here in this life, that you're here for a reason. So she goes down and descends through the 7 gates, 7 chakras, moving up through our 3 bottom chakras are actually seen as survival energy. And when they are wounded, when we're living in our wounded unconscious energy, we're acting in a survival way instead of a more conscious way. So to cleanse those lower chakras is to actually go through the descent journey and release that old energy. And when she ascends, after she's been dead and on a hook for 3 days, she resurrects and she comes back up through these gates and she takes back each thing she gave up. But as she ascends, she's not the same. She is a new and she's a new resurrected, redeemed energy that is now in a new relationship with this crown, these things that she gave up. And what she gave up, that crown, as dominance and authority, is now the crown is made out of humility and leadership through love, not hierarchy. So let's keep going. The gate 2, I'm going to go a little bit quicker here so we have time to get through this. But she comes to the 2nd gate, which is her sacral chakra. That is not earth now, it's more water. It's the I feel chakra. And it's the chakra of authority and desire. And she comes and she has a necklace. Actually, she has a staff as well. And so at gate 2, she's asked to give up her staff. It's a symbol of her lineage and her external validation, being validated by others' approval. And she releases the need to be chosen or adorned in any way, to be seen as special. And the lesson here is that when you have a desire to be validated, it's purified through this release of that, and it becomes more devotional. As she ascends back up, she receives creative sovereignty, the right to feel, to want, to create from her sacred bowl, her womb of wisdom, rather than from seeking approval from others. She stands in her power, in her sacred bowl, that yoni power, which is Sanskrit for the cosmic mother womb, where everything is born. So yes, that is the womb of creation for life, literal physical life, but also creative power to create the life of your dreams according to the power that you have from humility, not authority. The 3rd gate is her breastplate, which is the 3rd chakra is the solar plexus, and it's fire, and it's our I have, or I will, or I do. And she removes the breastplate that actually created a heart wall and it made her feel strong, like she didn't need help from anyone. But the lesson here is that vulnerability and connection is actually courageous and is her strength. She ascends as she reclaims her sacred will, not through the willpower against life, but willingness to move with life and be in the flow. Gate 4 here, as she comes to this gate and the gatekeeper asks for another thing to be given up. And this is her heart chakra, the heart gate. And it is the element of air, and it's relational identity. Who am I in relationship to all other? And this is what I speak to so much, that how do we ever think we can be in relationship? We are wired for connection as humans, and our desire is to be seen, heard, and understood. But how do we even know how to do that if we have no relationship with self? So this isn't, if I've talked about this so much, if we are not liking our outer reality, what is our relationship to self? When we start to shift and change and be more conscious about how we're showing up and tending here to our own heart and our own desires, it naturally flows to have a healthy relationship with everything else in our lives. So in her descent journey, she's asked to give up her ring. It's a ring of lapis. I don't know how to pronounce that properly. But it's the symbol of relational vows and agreements and attachments. And the lesson here is that love, like true love, unconditional love, demands nothing. It can't be lost. It's not something that we need approval for, or that we need to perform in a certain way in order to be loved or receive love. So her ascent journey is that she re-enters relationship not from need, but from wholeness. She's not seeking to be completed by another relationship or even a possession or a job title or anything exterior. She's stepped into the frequency of her wholeness, and she's able to give and receive love in a more free, unconditional way. Because she's more whole here, the signal she's sending out is drawing in a clearer mirror that is reflecting back her love for herself. If you have any questions or thoughts about this, please drop them here into the chat. I would love to see if you have any comments. Okay, the 5th gate on her descent journey is an anklet. And this is interesting because it's connected to the throat chakra, which is sound or vibration. It's voice and expression, being able to speak truth. And I've said this often, when we start to live from our heart rather than our mind, and we're not overthinking things, we're more in the flow of life and in the downstream energy of knowing that everything we desire is in the frequency of ease, then everything we want is downstream. If we can trust that the universe is always providing for us abundantly. But she releases her rod of judgment and measurement, all the ways that she compared herself or defined herself or controlled her reality through her narrative of her life. How often have we thought, oh, my story is this. This is what happened, or this is what shouldn't have happened in my life. And now I need to create a narrative around, well, I'm the person that this happened to, or because this happened, this is who I am. Instead of saying, wait a minute, I get to create the reality of my dreams based on what I desire, not on what happened. Yeah, that happened, but thank goodness it happened that way, because look at who I am now because those things happened. So the lesson here is that silence is actually not quiet. That when we can be more still, without a lot of words, we tap into a deeper truth that exists within us that can only speak when there's silence. So in her ascent, she begins to speak again, but now her words aren't creating disharmony or dis-ease energetically in her system, but harmony. And her voice becomes a prayer I don't know if you've ever heard, we just came out of Halloween, and in Aramaic, I know you've all heard abracadabra, like witches do this in movies and stuff, abracadabra. But in Aramaic, abracadabra literally means as it is spoken, so it is. And so she realizes the power of the frequency of her words, her thoughts, and her words to create emotion and send out a signal that brings back what is aligned with those frequencies. So it really is true. If we think and speak and feel the energy of simplicity and ease and abundance, and we speak it out, what are we bringing back? We're calling in with our magnetism the things we know that are there waiting for us energetically. If we can align with the frequency, it will be. I love that. That is empowerment through the power of love. Gate 6 is a robe, a golden robe. And this is the gate of the third eye, which represents vision and perception. She now is getting really close to the bottom of her descent in the 6th gate, and she surrenders her robe, her outer beauty, her spiritual persona. I am this, her polished image. And the lesson here is seeing clearly through the lens of love, through the third eye. You can see truth without illusion. Even the illusion of being the enlightened one, or the one who has everything figured out or more aware. Her sight becomes luminous on her ascent, and she perceives being one with everything, not separate, and that we are living in a 3-dimensional world that seems like there's polarity, but everything is non-duality. Shadow and light exist together because one makes the other true. Male and female, black and white, right and wrong, all of these dualistic ideas and theories and things, entities, exist as one, and they all exist in the umbrella of the energy of love. Everything is perfect love. Even all of the chaos and the mess that exists in our lives is literally a curriculum to bring us to our wholeness. So if we can see it that way, that is a game changer, because it literally keeps us in the energy of knowing that everything is always bringing us back home to us, so we can be in the frequency of our wholeness. When we start to clear out all the shadowy stuff, you can see this descent journey is always happening with us. Every time we feel like we're in a descent, pay attention. There's beauty there. There's growth there. Don't push it away. Do not run from the hardest things, because they are there to actually be your ally, to teach you and show you where you're still not free. Healing is just deeper levels of liberation from these energies that keep us in survival mode. So finally, at gate 7 is the garment of her ladyship, they call it. And it's really the crown chakra, the spirit, and it's sovereignty. It's knowing that I am one and I am connected to deity. I'm one with everything in this universe. I'm never separate from deity. And as I ground into my root chakra, being here in this human body, knowing that I'm here for a reason, and all these other chakras start to heal their energies, now you're connected all the time, and you're living naked. No role, no identity, no heart walls, no protections, just pure consciousness in its purest wholeness, embodied here in this flesh, in this human body. And the death of the false self, or our ego, is the lesson, knowing that we're not our ego. We came here to experience what we're not in order to return to our wholeness. So when she rises up, that final gate, she wears nothing. There's nothing really added back on, and her radiance itself becomes her garment. Her divinity and her connection to divinity is not a performance. It just is. She knows the power that she has to be connected to everything and live in the flow of life. So Inanna dies as she descends. She is hung on a hook, lifeless and emptied. And Ereshkigal is her sister and wails and begins to birth something new because of her grief over her sister. And through that compassion, the descent of her own shadow, Inanna is reborn. So her resurrection is not a return, like we talked about, to what was, but a marriage of opposites. It's bringing all the things she thought she was and letting them die. So when she ascends, each gate restores what was surrendered. So what she thought was control becomes trust. Her desire becomes creation. Her armor becomes openness to receive. Her attachment becomes compassion. Her judgment becomes truth. Her illusion becomes insight, and her identity becomes her essence. So instead of being the queen of above, she's the queen within. She's sovereign, and she's willing to be here as a human and feel it all and receive it all. So I want to ask you a few questions here. I want to ask you, when have you noticed, and this is the theme of receiving, if you're new and coming in right now, we're talking about being a receiver. And I want you to think about that word. There's many ways to be a receiver. What do you think of when you think of a receiver? I think of someone who stands like this and they're willing to be open and not contracted, thinking that they have all the answers, or they're too scared to open up to any other way to think or be in relationship to themselves. First, how are we in relationship to ourselves and receiving from ourselves the love and compassion that we're giving all the time, especially as women and leaders of our family, in giving compassion and serving? It's expected, and yet we're not really giving that to ourselves. I also think of being a receiver, like a tower, like a radio tower back in the day. Now we have cell towers. But think of what a receiver actually is. It's energetic and it's receiving signals all the time. If we think of ourselves as energetic radio receivers, what are the messages that we are receiving from life? Are we open to receive the messages that are telling us that we are one with everything and that deity is not something so far from us? It's when we're in relationship with ourselves in a way that is compassionate and loving without judgment, now we're way more likely to be in the frequency of our wholeness, which is connected to deity. Do you see how that works? Receiving and being open is the give and take of life. Okay, so my question for you is, when do you notice yourself resisting being a receiver? I have 3 questions here. That's the first question I want you to ponder as you sit here listening to this. The second question I like because it goes a little bit deeper. I spoke about it in the beginning, but how does your body respond when someone gives to you praise, when they give you love, when they give you their time or their care? It's interesting. I remember in my practice first, or in the early years of my practice as a therapist, I would ask people how they receive compliments, because that is very telling when someone is not able to receive a compliment. If someone's like, "Oh, I love your eyes," or "I love your smile," or whatever, if you're like, "Oh," and you dismiss it, pay attention. How are you not able to receive that compliment? What is it in you energetically within you that's keeping you from saying thank you, instead of diminishing the compliment and not being able to receive it? There's something here that you're holding on to that is making it energetically unable to receive it in a way that feels easeful and simple instead of energetically complicated, like projecting back out or dismissing it or distracting the person and changing the subject. Do you see what I'm saying? Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever been aware when you've done that? I will say, yes, as a recovering people pleaser, it felt weird to have attention on me. So I would put it back or say, oh, well, not like them, and I wouldn't receive it, the compliment or the love or the care. I remember being sick when I had a lot of kids, and I just wanted to power through. I thought that's what a good woman should do instead of tending to myself or allowing others to tend to me. When I had friends, it was like, let me bring you dinner. I'd say, no, 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 I'm fine. I've got it. Why wasn't I able to receive the care and the time from someone else? That's interesting. Energetically, pay attention. If you're not able to receive and you can pay attention to all the layers and the ways that you're not able to, that is good information to have because now it's guiding you back home in here, tuning in, like tuning in and being like, I'm curious what shadowy things are living in me that create this resistance to being a receiver. Okay. The third question is, what might receiving look like in your next chapter? So as you think of yourself moving forward in your life as a receiver, what would you like to receive? What would that look like if you could receive love? If you could be a receiver of creativity, not from something outside of you. This is what I'm meaning, and I want to make this very clear. What might receiving look like in your next chapter if you were receiving from yourself love, creativity, rest, any of these things, not coming from something outside of you, but you being the giver and the receiver of your own love? What would that do for your creativity if you could be in the feminine flow of receptivity? Feminine energy in its purest form is powerfully creative because it's rooted, it's it's dark, so it's fallow. That's where things gestate and percolate, being ready to birth something new from that yin, feminine, powerful life force prana energy. Can you imagine that living in you? And you are the giver, knowing that you can give that love to you, that creativity and that life force energy, and even the rest, tending to yourself and saying, I need to rest. I'm going to sit down and read a book right now. What is it that would look like rest for you? So I do want to say that there is a paradox here in our culture. And that paradox looks like that receiving takes courage, right? It does take courage to be a receiver, but true receiving isn't selfish. It may look and feel like it if you've never done that for yourself, but it allows us to live in the overflow and to give from an authentic space. Have you ever met anyone? I'm guilty of this in the past. I would give and give and give so much to others, but there was always behind it some sort of, not always, but sometimes resentment. Like I'm giving and giving, but in the back of my heart, I'm like, but this is hard. I'm like, I don't have time for this, or I'm depleted. I'm exhausted. I can't keep giving from this space. Can you imagine what it would be like to give from a cup that is full? So I want to share a story with you about, I think the story comes from the Tao Te Ching, and it speaks to the story of the Buddhist monk who was actually pouring, the wise master was pouring tea into the student's cup until it overflowed. And the student protested, but the master said, how can I give you more wisdom when your cup is already full? Which is so beautiful that think about the metaphor of this. If we are a cup, a vessel in this life as a human being, we get to. I don't think we must or that we have to. We get to. It's a privilege to empty out our assumptions, our overthinking, our need to be right in order to receive new insight and flow. So, our minds and our hearts must and can and want to become like empty cups. And when we stop filling them with self-judgment or over-efforting or striving, feeling that these are the upstream thoughts I was talking about, if we want to be back in the energy of downstream flow, flowing towards everything that's waiting for us and it's there already energetically, how do we align with that? We can pour wisdom and love and synchronicities into ourselves by believing that we can, and suddenly everything starts to shift energetically. Do you have any questions about this? About the idea? So I have a lot of people that will ask me, how, like, just give me practical information. How do I start to turn my thoughts around? If I am not aware that I'm thinking my inner dialogue. What is my inner dialogue? Is it telling me a story, an old story? Well, you're always this way. You always forget. Well, you have ADD, or someone told you you had ADD, and so now you believe that, and that you let that be your living truth because you keep telling yourself the same story. Your thoughts are based on, well, of course this is happening because I have ADD, or that I have depression or anxiety, instead of saying, is it really true that those things are bad? What if I can give myself a lot of grace and say, wait a minute, the more I study and learn about ADD, it actually is some of the people that actually almost every person that has been an inventor or someone thinking outside of the box would be considered all the characteristics of ADD because they're creative, they're thinking outside of the box. They have gifts that are other than robotic and socially, they're maybe socially different. And so they're seen as other and maybe not as useful. But when those people stepped into their power and believed in their gifts, look what happened. Look what they brought forward for all of us. So back to our thoughts, the loop of our thoughts. We will only live our lives according to what we believe to be true. And our thoughts start first, then our words, then our emotions about those thoughts and words, and then our behavior. We start to behave in a way according to those first three things. They inform everything, and our behavior becomes our habits, becomes our personal reality and our personality. So now our personality is someone who's overthinking, someone who thinks, or their inner dialogue is that, oh yeah, I don't matter. I'm not good enough. I'm not capable. I'm not lovable. All of those versions that we tell ourselves. So when we bring more stillness, more presence to our days, we're starting to think about what we're thinking about. I've said this before, but I think it's good to repeat. We have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, and 90% of those thoughts are the same thoughts we had the day before and the day before. So if we are not thinking about what we're actually thinking about, what is our personal reality? What is our personality? So if we are that powerful to create a reality based on our thoughts, and that reality is something we don't like and we're suffering in any way, that is good news because it means that we have created a reality, a personality, a personal reality based on an error in thinking. If we're suffering at all, it's because there's an error in our thought patterns. We are not born to suffer. We are born to have joy and experience life, the whole spectrum of our emotions. So the practical answer here is, that was a long way, but I wanted to kind of explain the importance of being aware of our thoughts. When we can bring awareness to, oh, how do we bring awareness to our thoughts is to pay attention to our emotions. And the way to do that is to slow down and notice if I'm controlling, if I'm resisting, if I'm trying to manipulate an outcome, or if I'm frustrated or angry in any way, pay attention. Our emotions are the greatest guide towards freedom, back to freedom and liberation from thoughts that are wrong or not aligned with truth. So if we are noticing any of that come up in our bodies, pay attention. That is trying to speak to you. It's information saying, why are you resisting? Why are you so angry? What is so frustrating for you right now? Aha, now I have awareness that I'm suffering or that I'm angry or resentful in some way. That's good news because it means now I can choose through my power of thought a new, softer thought. That's all it takes. That's the trick. There's not some big grand gesture that needs to happen right now to transform your life. It's little baby steps back, always back to love instead of fear. What's a softer thought? What's a softer way to speak to myself right now? If I am feeling like I need to control these things and fix things, ah, can I take a deep breath and slow down? Is it my responsibility to control all of this? How does that feel in my body when I feel that I have to control it all? That I am responsible for everyone's happiness? I need to fix everything so I can feel more comfortable? That doesn't feel good in my body. What's a softer way to think right now? And you come into alignment with a softer thought. And that looks like, so if I'm thinking an upstream thought, an example of that would be like, my children are doing this, and maybe they're adult children, because it's harder when kids are younger and living in your home. Yes, you're responsible to a certain extent about guiding them towards ways to be in culture, in our society, in life with themselves and the relationships with themselves first, to give compassion and love, right? So then they can be in relationship with everything else in life in that same way, open, receiving, loving, not trying to control and manipulate. And if they see that in their parents, guess what? They're way more likely to give that grace and compassion to themselves too. So the offering here is, if you feel like you need to control and fix things, slow down, come back home. What's a more compassionate, just a little softer way to be in relationship to your child, to yourself, to the situation, to the experience, and come out of the weeds and maybe get a little higher perspective. Ah, I can see how I'm trying to control this. I actually realize now more and more that the energy of compassion towards myself and the situation or my child or whatever it is could look like this instead of this. That's a softer way. And that aligns you with the energy of downstream thoughts. If it brings relief to your body, that's a downstream thought and a downstream emotion. If it's more aligned with ease and simplicity and peace and harmony in your body, you will feel it. You'll take a deep breath and have more ease. Feel that. It's softer. And when you can do that, you are now aligned with everything that's waiting for you just around the river bend. So, does that make sense? Does any of the things I've spoken to help you feel a little bit more ease, more peace when you think of the idea of being aware of your thoughts? Does that feel like a hard thing? Does it feel like something you can't do? I work with people in my practice a lot who are willing to actually become aware of their thoughts. And I see beautiful, beautiful changes in them. I also work with people that I sit with weekly or bi-weekly, and they'll come and we talk about the concepts, but they go their way and they never think about it again until we meet the next time. And then I'll ask, how did it go? What changed? What did you see changing and shifting? And they're like, I didn't have time to really do that. Okay. So what I'm inviting you to do is to make a commitment to yourself to be just a little more aware. It's not something you have to do. It's something you get to do. One of my teachers taught me the power of our words, that when we believe and tell ourselves that we have to do something or we should do it or I should have done it better, like thinking back in the past with shoulds, I need to, I have to, these words are called the insidious, what are they called? They're like nefarious. They're send out a signal and a frequency of lack and scarcity, saying, I need to be better. I'm no good. When we can align with, I get to, I want to, I love to tend to myself. I love to make the commitment to myself to be more aware. Can you see how the energy shifts just a little bit in your body when you feel that way? That I get to tend to myself. I get to give myself compassion and receive it as well. Now I'm stepping into the feminine capacity to actually receive all that life has for me, the abundance of life. Just that shift in words and how you think can be a huge start. So the invitation here is to make just a tiny little commitment to turn towards your body and pay attention to what it's speaking to you. If it's resisting, if it's tight or contracted at all, there's your clue. I must have been, if I'm feeling this in my body, what was I thinking right before that? And what do I get to bring more compassion, more grace, and a softer way to be in relationship with my words and my thoughts so my emotions can align with my true nature, which is love and abundance and compassion. So, if you have anything that you're struggling with that you'd like to bring forward, something that feels heavy, I'm here for live free coaching. If there is any resistance that you feel to this, I'm curious. How do you feel like you are as a receiver? Is there anything you'd like to share? As I speak to these things, is there anything that has come up that you're like, oh, I get to work on that? Or, oh, I have to. And how does that feel in your body? The difference between I get to or I want to versus I have to, I must be doing this, and then beating yourself up for maybe forgetting. And I want to say this, when you believe that you get to give yourself compassion and make a commitment to yourself, it literally opens up the channels of energy that are able to receive more awareness when you're not aligned with those energies. Does that make sense? The very energy of contraction and shutting down lives in the I must, or I have to, or I'm not doing it well enough. Can you see how that works? And it works on every level. So, I want to, first of all, say thank you for being here, because if you are here, that means you are a seeker of more truth, more, I don't even want to call it light, more willingness to turn in and tune in and have a relationship with yourself that will bring you closer to the frequency of your wholeness, which is abundance and love and compassion and all the things that are easy and that will keep you flowing towards all that you truly desire. So, congratulations for being here. Brooke says, no questions here, but thank you. I'm excited about noticing the many ways that I am a receiver. Enlightening. Thank you, Brooke, for being here. I really, really appreciate your consistent desire. And it's not even an over efforted thing. I feel your energy, Brooke, as being so open and willing to do, I don't even want to call it the work, because it's not work. It's like a gift that you're giving yourself every time you're more willing to turn towards yourself and learn something new about you and all the ways that you can be a receiver. And you are a receiver. We are receivers. If we've been receiving not fully, how can we open up just a little bit more? Go to the edge of your receiving, your ability to receive, and soften just a little bit there and see what you can be more open to receiving. It's very simple and it's very beautiful. And I'd love to hear how it goes for you until the next time we meet. How does it feel in your body to be a receiver? And what are the ways that you are more willing to do it as you pay attention to it? Okay. Thank you for being here. I am hoping to, well, actually, I'm planning in the new year to continue this, but maybe do it on a subscription level. So there's more skin in the game. That once you've paid for something, you're more willing to show up and do, I don't want to call it the work, but to actually lean in, right? Lean in and learn about some of these concepts. And Brooke says, what is the name or reference for the story you told of the woman descending chakras? Okay, so it's very metaphorical and mythical and archetypal. Her name is Inanna, and Inanna is, let me tell you, it's spelled I, da, 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 da. I want to get it right. Inanna. And there's stuff on YouTube and all of the metaphorical and archetypal ways that we are all on a descent journey, having initiations that strip away the our ego. Really, it's stripping away the things we think we are, that we've been conditioned to believe that we are living human as humans, right? We learn it from our parents and our mentors and our teachers and our peers. As we observe in life, we take in all this information and we believe, oh, this is who I need to be. But the truth is, we are a soul that is not broken. We're already whole. We don't need to heal anything. We get to release all the conditioning of what we think we are and be in a different relationship with it. So in Nana's descent, when you read that story, pay attention. It's the descending, it's actually rising up through the chakras. Her descent journey starts down low. It's really an ascent. And then when she's in a relationship with all the things that she gave up, thinking that she needed to over effort or perform herself, she starts to reach these higher frequencies and like, oh, that's right. I've never been my ego. I am my soul. I am my wholeness, which is love and abundance. So I hope that story can, as you go and study it, Brooke, I'd love to hear what you think about it, because for me, it was very, very profound in alignment with my own path and my journey. And I realized, wait, this isn't just personal. Every one of us has a hero's journey, a heroine's journey that we are on right now. The fact that we came here to be human as a soul is a journey in and of itself. And that is the archetypal journey that we are all on. But then it comes down and it becomes so personal, because every descent journey, some are so heavy and they really strip away a lot. But thank goodness for that. Thank goodness for the stripping away of what we're not, right? Life becomes much, much easier and much less suffering when we start to realize that every descent journey and the stripping away of what we're not is actually a gift that we get to be grateful for. We don't have to be. That's our choice. And that choice right there can be life-changing. Will we suffer and be a victim, or will we rise up and know that our power lies in every now moment to choose love over fear? Okay. Blessings to you all, and namaste, which means the divine light in me recognizes and loves the divine light in you. Namaste. Thanks for coming. Bye, Brooke. Thank you. If you study Inanna, please let me know. I would love to talk to you about it. It's very enlightening. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, sister. Ciao.
Bye.